Tonight, we expose myths, lies, and complete stupidity.
You're a bully.
Politicians now tell us what food we can eat.
What business is it of yours what I put in my own body?
That's a really good donut.
Without a little fat and sugar, what would life be?
We're told fracking will poison our water.
Wells have been ruined and people are sick and livestock is dying.
Don't frack my mother.
Don't frack me!
But fracking is good.
It's an amazing story.
Also, because stupid people do this.
Do it, do it, do it.
These people lose their jobs?
We're less safe because of you awful people.
We deliver.
And should government deliver the mail? Should it build speedy trains? We look for answers at the seat of power.
You're always adding burdens.
Whose way?
Washington, where they often don't want our camera around.
We can't just take a picture of the beautiful atrium?
No.
But there's so much money here. Life is good.
Once people come to D.C., they never leave.
And now, from the Fox News headquarters in New York, John Stossel.
We start with myth number 7. Because Americans are so fat, it's government's job to help us eat better.
Changing old habits is never easy.
No, it's not. So the First Lady says to change behavior,
It's going to take government doing its part.
if Michelle Obama wants to inspire us by exercising on the White House lawn, that's great. But government doing its part usually means force.
This has nothing to do with banning your ability to buy as many sugary drinks as you want, simply the size of the cup that can be used.
In my hometown, the mayor went to war against big cups of soda. He made cups this size illegal.
This is the single biggest step any city, I think, has ever taken to curb obesity.
Please, I can still buy 2 of these. That's 32 ounces. Or I can go to a supermarket, buy one of these monsters. How does this curb obesity?
We all thank you.
My mayor's also proud that he's forced every chain restaurant to clearly post calorie count. There they are.
There were more than a few skeptics, but today both reforms are recognized as national models.
Sadly, that's true. Under Obamacare, all big chains will now have to post calorie counts, even though they don't work. A study by professors at New York University and Yale tracked customers at McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, and Kentucky Fried Chicken. They found half the customers noticed the calorie counts, and some said it influenced their ordering. But when researchers checked receipts, they found people ordered more calories. The author of The Food Police, Jason Lusk, studied that too.
What we find is those labels really don't change behavior at all. So what you're doing is asking companies to undertake a cost that has essentially no benefit to the consumer. It's a sign of a government that's willing to step into your daily food choices, even though they know it won't work, for the sole reason of creating a symbol. I mean, what kind of government is that?
An intrusive one. In my state, the legislator most eager to ban foods and require that those signs be posted is Felix Ortiz.
It didn't work. They've tested it. In fact, they ate more.
Well, I'm disagree with that.
Now he's going after salt.
The ban of salt in the restaurants in the state of New York.
Too much salt is bad for some people. People with hypertension or some other problem. But there's no evidence that it's harmful to most of us. In fact,
some studies show that reduced salt intake among some segments of the population actually increased the chances of death.
So because you shouldn't have salt, I can't have salt?
It's based on the statistics that is coming from CDC.
For some people, maybe 20% of the people, but not everybody.
Hold the cheeseburgers. Across the pond in Europe, Denmark is becoming the first country in the world to impose a fat tax.
Some members of the Food Police say consumers should pay more to buy less healthy food. The chattering class loved what Denmark did.
Denmark has decided to implement what they're calling a fat tax. Basically, you go to the supermarket, you buy a food that has above a certain level of fat, they charge you extra. All right, do we feel good about this, Doc?
Absolutely.
The fat tax passed the Danish parliament overwhelmingly. But Danes just switched to cheaper food that was just as unhealthy, or crossed the border to shop in neighboring countries. Within 1 year, Denmark repealed its fat tax. So far, its American boosters haven't mentioned that, so I will.
They repealed it.
As they repeal it, I think they're making a big mistake on repealing.
Well, they tried it for a year. They tried your dumb idea for a year, and they said, oh, my goodness, bad idea.
I believe it's a great idea.
Other great ideas from the Food Police are taxes on candy or fast food.
How do you define a fast food? You can go to McDonald's, you can order a salad, or you can order a Big Mac. Both of those are fast food. You can bet that the lobbyists are going to be on the table when we make those rules as to what a fast food is.
Illinois has had a similar problem with its candy tax. What exactly is candy? The bureaucrats decided this Hershey bar is taxable candy, but this Hershey bar isn't because it contains flour. Store clerks don't know what to charge.
In our donuts, we have flour, sugar, eggs, salt.
Katie Rosenhaus's dessert won an award on the Food Network.
Don't you think you're poisoning people?
No.
You're making everybody fat.
No. Without a little fat and sugar, what would life be?
We asked her to make donuts without the so-called bad stuff.
The healthy version I made today has no sugar, no salt, very little fat. It's not fried, it's baked, showing you how different dessert can be without all of the good stuff.
The good stuff? Well,
Yeah.
it's egg whites. That's good.
Egg whites are good, but it's not like egg yolks.
Will people mind the difference? Let's try a taste test. We got a healthy donut and a regular donut.
Almost everyone liked the regular donut.
That's awesome.
And how about the other one?
Not good.
So good?
Doesn't really taste like anything.
You need the sugar.
I wanted to like the healthy donut.
It's like eating bread.
Not what I'm looking for in a donut.
Some people did like the healthier version.
That's baked.
It's good. For a baked donut, it's very good.
Taste is subjective, so it's good that people have choices.
And we're trying to give you alternative and option where you can make better choices.
Where do you get off saying you're giving us more choice? You're banning things. You're giving us less choice.
Well, let me just say, you're absolutely right. I'm trying to ban those stuff that is not good for the consumer.
You're a bully.
Well, I've been calling worse.
What business is it of yours what I put in my own body? Isn't that part of freedom?
You can have the freedom, but when it's come down to the healthcare costs, then we need to tackle them. And if we are not into healthy lifestyle, government will be blamed for not doing the right thing.
So because government is responsible, because we have a socialized healthcare system, you get to take away my freedom?
I think what I'm trying to do is to help you to have a better life.
You're like a cancer. You're spreading a bad thing that costs a lot of money and doesn't do any good.
And I am a good counselor who providing good, healthy advice for the best public health of our country.
A good cancer. That brings us to myth number 6. Obamacare is good for business.
We are done.
Democrats say it is.
The fact is, it's very good for small business. It's incredibly good for small business.
They are why we committed ourselves to this cause.
The White House specifically says on its website, myth debunked, business will not suffer under health reform.
It's all good, Obamacare? It's not going to hurt business?
You can't be wealthy unless you're healthy.
You may remember Congressman Alan Grayson's support of Obamacare.
Remember, the Republican plan, don't get sick. And if you do get sick, die quickly.
I was surprised to learn Grayson used to be a businessman. He helped create a tech company called IDT.
With Penny Talk from IDT, international calls to...
You're an unusual politician, having really created something, created wealth, run IDT. I would think you would see the burden all these rules put on businesses.
Point to one rule that actually has had a dramatic impact on job creation or on small business.
Well, it's not so much one rule, it's the pile of rules.
Here's Obamacare, and this is just the start, because many pages say the Secretary shall produce more regulation.
Well, put together that big pile of rules. Which are the bad ones?
All right, what about the tax on medical devices? A bunch of Democrats now object to this.
Listen, we have to pay for it somehow.
Obamacare imposes a steep tax on companies that make medical devices. Things like pacemakers, artificial limbs, digital thermometers. This can be a profitable business, but it's also one that saves lives. The new tax means they'll probably save fewer lives. So now, even many Senate Democrats want that part of Obamacare killed.
Don't we want more medical devices?
When you pass a law that costs something, you have to come up with the money for it.
Obamacare also forces more business owners to pay more for workers' health care. Lauren Goodrich runs restaurants in Maine and New Hampshire.
Thanks for choosing Subway today.
He hires lots of kids and offers health insurance to most full-time workers who stick around.
You got 20 Subway shops.
Yes.
How many employees?
I have 180 employees.
So Obamacare, the point is to get your employees better health care.
I think it's a noble cause, but I can't provide for every single need of every single employee. In a low-margin retail restaurant business, this bill is devastating.
Goodrich says his profit margin's already smaller because he's had to pay specialists to try to explain Obamacare's rules.
Accountants and insurance agents and lawyers to try to figure out how I'm going to be able to comply with the bill. And they still can't give me the answer.
What can I get for you?
Obamacare says he must buy expensive insurance for all full-time workers or pay a fine. Either, he says, will slash his profit.
I can hear the people listening saying, so what? He's a rich guy. He's got 20 stores. Make less profit.
Yeah, well, you could say that, but you have to have a profit to be able to expand your business. I'm not going to be hiring more people.
So raise prices.
I have so many customers that come in with the exact change for their lunch in their hand. They're very, very price conscious.
I just wonder, who are these businesses on the margin? You know,
Aren't there always some just not sure if expanding is going to make them a profit?
So on the basis of that, we're going to deny 15 million people coverage?
It's nice to give people coverage, but he does impose costs. Goodrich says the cost will force him to cut full-time workers.
I'll absolutely have to cut many people down to part-time.
And people the law was meant to help. Maybe him, maybe her, will be hurt.
They'll have to go get another job. They'll have to work 2 jobs to make ends meet, which is sad.
It's an extra burden. You're always adding burdens.
Who is we?
You congressmen, you Democratic congressmen especially.
I visited communist countries while they were still communist, okay? I know what it looks like to be in a place where there really is a burden. I don't see our country being that way.
And we're not, yet. But we should learn from history and stop putting more burdens on guys like him.
You need me. I employ your teenagers. Some have gone off to run their own businesses because of my training. My business is needed.
Coming up, the new celebrity cause, stopping fracking.
Please don't frack my mother.
Don't frack me! Don't frack
me! Myth number 5. Our drinking water's in danger because oil companies frack. Frack? What's that?
The controversy is over chemicals being injected into the earth to break up rock and release natural gas.
Fracking means shoving water and chemicals into the ground, fracturing the rock to release oil and gas. This has been done for 60 years. But recently, geologists learned how to drill sideways. Result? America now has much more and therefore cheaper natural gas. This means families pay less to heat their homes. Soon, America may be self-sufficient in energy. Also, if you're worried about global warming, burning natural gas releases less greenhouse gas than oil or coal.
Fracking feels wrong. It feels like you're pumping stuff into Mother Earth, but it's an amazing story.
Bjorn Lomborg, a liberal European environmentalist, points out that Europe promised to cut its greenhouse gas emissions, but didn't cut them much.
In Europe, we've only managed to cut half of what you guys accidentally happen to do when you stumble on fracking.
So fracking brings fuel that's cheaper, plentiful, maybe better for the world. So why are these people so mad?
Ban fracking now! Ban fracking now!
They worry about energy companies shoving these dangerous chemicals into the ground.
Ethyl-methyl ethyl disulfide, trimethylbenzene.
This is a scene from an anti-fracking documentary called Gasland.
Naphthalene, 1,2,4, trimethylbenzene.
For the documentary feature Gasland, Josh Fox.
Hollywood gave Gasland's director an Emmy. And Matt Damon's latest movie features greedy energy companies destroying the promised land.
It's happened to one of us. It can happen to all of us.
Gather around, people, listen to my song.
Yoko Ono and her son, Sean Lennon, founded a group called Artists Against Fracking.
Please don't frack my mother.
Don't frack me! Don't frack me!
Celebs are upset, and so is the left-wing media.
Wastewater, which comes up by the millions of gallons.
And so the protests grow.
Wells have been ruined and people are sick and livestock is dying.
Genetic mutation of our children.
A lot of people could get sick.
You'd think so, since that anti-fracking movie includes this frightening scene.
Whoa, Jesus Christ.
So much gas in his water, he could light it.
What you see in Gasland is real.
Paul Galley runs the influential environmental group Riverkeeper.
All the people from the companies say, oh, this isn't our problem. This was there in the first place. But they're lying.
He and the Gasland movies say this is much more likely to happen after fracking. But when state environmental officials investigated this incident, they concluded fracking had nothing to do with it. It was just gas that's naturally in the ground. That happens. There are many places in America where no fracking is done, but water still catches fire. This is a lake in Alaska. This man lives in New York where fracking is banned. Yet.
Whoa!
But if fracking doesn't cause these problems, why the lawsuits and headlines about ruined wells? Filmmaker Fela McAleer checked out pollution claims made by Craig and Julie Sauntner.
Have you done independent testing yourself?
We did way back, maybe 2 years ago.
Sauntner was oddly vague about the results.
I can't remember what that showed.
His lawsuit says his well water was dirty and dark. But when McAleer checked, it wasn't.
It changes from day to day. One day it'll be clear, and the next day it won't.
The Sauntners demanded that Pennsylvania environmental officials test their water. So the EPA did, and concluded that their water was fine and reported that good news to the Sauntners. Listen to his reaction.
No, this is bull crap, man. I'm sick and tired of this. What happened to you people?
We're telling you we tested your water. At this point in time, we found no contaminants in it.
Even President Obama's recent EPA director says,
in no case have we made a definitive determination that the fracking process has caused chemicals to enter groundwater.
Now, some companies have spilled chemicals. There is risk. The protesters say instead of fracking, America should just use less energy and invest in alternatives.
Renewable energy would be best. Wind, solar, geothermal.
There's a thing that's algae. There's more energy in algae than any other, source.
No, there isn't. Today, renewable energy doesn't provide the world with anywhere near the power we need.
If you environmental zealots got your way, there would be no progress. Oil, natural gas, fuel is dirty. But otherwise, we're living in the dark ages.
I hear the zealotry coming from the other side, John. I don't see zealotry in what I'm saying. I see statistics that are uncomfortable for you and the people who are in favor of this.
And his side is one in my state. Protesters persuaded politicians to stop all fracking in New York. That makes me uncomfortable, because the world needs energy, where energy is limited.
Life is cruel and life is short. Energy matters. We take it for granted. We really shouldn't.
Coming up, something else we shouldn't take for granted. 5-gallon gas cans. Now, myth number 4. We're safer because of lawsuits against reckless companies and their dangerous products. That's logical, but what if you want to buy one of these plastic gas cans?
The largest manufacturer has just closed up shop.
That was Blitz USA in Oklahoma.
Nothing's ever made me prouder than to see the way that this team finished this job.
After 50 years, 117 people lost their jobs. There were lots of tears.
I've been here 36 years and 10 months, and these people are my family.
My plan is to go home and lay down and cry.
I'm going to miss home.
Of course, companies disappear all the time. Markets change, new products emerge, but this company made something that's in high demand. So what happened? This happened. Some people used the gas cans to pour gasoline on fires. Some were burned. Some were killed. That's terrible, but is it the gas can's fault?
Throw the whole thing on there. Do it, dude, do it. Way to go. Oh my God, dude! Oh my gosh!
It's people being stupid with the cans.
The lawyers have designed systems that are good for lawyers and bad for our community.
Ah, the lawyers.
If you or a loved one have been injured in an accident,
If you get hurt, it's easy to find lawyers eager to take your case for a percentage of the winnings.
Don't wait, call me today.
It's not lawyers that put Blitz out of business, it's Blitz that put Blitz out of business.
Lawyer Andrew Smiley didn't sue Blitz, but he defends his colleagues who did.
A flame arrestor, a device put on these gas cans, would prevent explosions that have been occurring because of the backdraft of fumes into the cans.
A flame arrestor. It's this little piece of metal which, if inserted into the gas can spout, might prevent fire from crawling up into the can and causing an explosion. It might. Researchers at Worcester Polytechnic are testing flame arrestors in plastic gas cans. So far, the tests show the flame arrestors might make the cans more dangerous because they clog and because static electricity from metal can start a fire. That's probably why no plastic gas can includes flame arrestors.
This could cause fires.
It's left for the jury to listen to the evidence, listen to the experts, hear about the research, and make a decision.
But the jurors aren't scientists, and they see this poor victim, they just want to help, so they'll award the money.
Of course there's sympathetic cases. It's very dangerous. If they can make this product safer, then why don't they?
Because it would cost more, because it would clog and make the product less useful. This could cause a spark. This could cause more danger. There are lots of reasons not to do this. It's a debate. But once you lawyer parasites step in, the debate's over because you cost so much.
I don't think that's the case. If a company decides to make a product and put it out on the market, they're required to do what's reasonable.
Juries are called upon to decide what's reasonable. But our legal system's stacked against companies that make a product that can burn people. Some lawyers said Blitz's warning label wasn't clear enough.
The warnings are not distinguished at all.
Lawyers often win money arguing that there should be more warnings. One result is that even a simple ladder today includes 30 warnings.
You ever look at a birth control pill label?
I have not.
Well, I happen to have one here. This is what your lawsuits do. Tiny print, both sides of the page. There are so many warnings now, none of us read them. We're less safe because of you awful people.
That's left to a jury. People that are going to read warnings in general are going to read them.
When Blitz was first sued, it fought back in court and won.
It cost us $2.5 million to win it.
$2 million. In our legal system, even when you win, you lose.
It's the lawyers that are winning and everybody else losing.
More lawsuits poured in.
The year before we filed for bankruptcy, we had 25 cases in the last 9 months.
You can sue somebody all the way until they're broke and tired and can't provide jobs and take care of communities and be an entrepreneur in our society.
Even if Blitz's cans were dangerous, lawsuits rarely take into account the danger of not having a product. During Hurricane Sandy, stores ran out of containers for gasoline.
It's incredible. We just can't keep them in the stores.
The manufacturer, I think, is having difficulties keeping up with the supply of red gas cans.
Store employees didn't know that Blitz no longer exists.
Once every 40 dissipated.
Customers were desperate for cans.
I've looked all over Brooklyn. This is the first time I find a 5-gallon gas can.
Folks are trying to buy buckets. We tell them that you can't do that. You have to have a certified gas can to get gasoline from a gas station.
The New York Times says one man walked into a gas station lugging a 5-gallon Igloo cooler, hoping to fill it with gas.
They were putting gas in milk jugs. This makes us much less safe.
To make the argument that because of lawsuits resulted in the company going out of business, resulted in there being no cans available, resulted in people not getting gas cans during a hurricane is frankly a ridiculous argument.
But it is just a fact that we lose products because of fear of lawsuits. It's why America has no AIDS vaccine and no Lyme disease vaccine.
You deprive me of good stuff.
Well, I would disagree with that. If they're scared of someone like me to bring something to the market because it could cause harm, then I'm happy about that.
We pay for his happiness, not just in products we lose, but Americans pay almost $1,000 per person per year for lawsuits. And in Oklahoma, Blitz let 117 workers go.
This is wrong. If they can take this team and destroy it, they can take just about anything.
They can. But there is something that no one seems to be able to take away. and you have to fund them. Tiny, hardly used post offices. Another myth. Government can run the post office like a business.
We deliver. They buy commercials like businesses do. We deliver. But real businesses can't lose billions every year. 16 billion last year. The post office loses money even though
they don't pay sales taxes. They don't pay property taxes. They don't even pay their parking tickets.
With advantages like that, how does the post office lose money? Well, here's a reason. Check out this little post office in Massachusetts.
Hi.
This is one of hundreds that on average bring in less than $700 a month.
Can't talk to you.
I don't blame her. But a real business would close a store that can't cover even her salary, let alone other costs.
Never mind that.
Congress says post offices must serve all of America. But
there's another post office a mile down the road.
In fact, there are 5 others within a few miles. Why do they need so many so close to each other? Even the locals see the excess.
They should be cut back to probably a couple.
There are a bunch of post offices around.
I think it's kind of silly.
Close these post offices.
We're working on it. And
what do you mean you're working on it? A business just does it.
We're expected to operate like a business, but Congress has not allowed us the flexibility to operate like a business.
Mickey Barnett is chairman of the Post Office Board.
On your website, you say, since Ben Franklin, the Postal Service has grown and changed with America. But you don't change. You're a government monopoly. You barely change.
250,000 fewer employees than we had.
But you don't fire anybody.
No.
If government did fire people, the big government media would say things like this.
They are hell-bent on seeing the U.S. Postal Service die.
So the managers just wait for workers to quit or retire.
Attrition is kinder. That's why you do it?
Well, we have union contracts that also have no layoff provisions in it and so forth.
How can you run a business that way?
It's part of being a quasi-governmental entity. That's how the cookie crumbles.
That's your tax money that's crumbling.
Private delivery services like FedEx continue to thrive while the Postal Service bleeds billions.
FedEx, UPS, and others make billions because they innovate and cut costs.
UPS.
Postal officials like Mickey Barnett try to do that. Try to close money losers like these.
Why weren't they closed long ago?
Political pressure.
Congress can kill any major change. Close post offices? No way. Save billions by adjusting benefit payments? Not a chance.
So these politicians aren't dumb. What are they thinking?
Well, they're thinking about re-election.
They can't be so short-sighted, can they? They're supposed to be responsible.
Are we so dumb that we need to keep losing taxpayers' money?
You know, if the post office could charge anything it wanted, it probably would operate at a very substantial profit.
You would vote for that?
Not necessarily.
This is why they say they can't run it like a business.
Well, okay.
They have to beg you for permission, kiss your ring every time they want to do something.
The post office provides something that's extremely valuable and has to be maintained, and that's universal service. That costs something.
Universal service means every American must get mail service, whether you live in the suburbs or deep in the heart of Alaska. They even haul mail by mule to a remote town at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. As Senator Franken says,
it's in the Constitution.
But it isn't. The Constitution says Congress has the power to establish post offices. It doesn't have to, and it doesn't have to deliver mail to all of America.
People living in rural America aren't living there by force. If you go back to the history, it was private carriers that picked up the mail from the post office and took it the last mile, or else people came out to the post office and picked it up. What we have today is an invention of Congress.
Who says there needs to be universal service? If I live way out in the boondocks, I can get email.
There are countries a lot poorer than the United States, including the Congo, that try to provide universal mail service to everybody.
But in the private sector, if they keep losing money, they go out of business. In your government, I have to pay forever.
I don't represent John Stossel in Congress. Overwhelmingly, people don't want post offices closed. They don't want to cut in Saturday delivery.
Overwhelmingly, they are short-sighted and they want free stuff for themselves. Aren't you supposed to be the grown-up who says, you know, in this case, you can't have it all?
I don't feel any sort of moral compulsion to shut down post offices when they don't want them shut down. The public disagrees with you.
They do. Most people don't want their post office closed.
Not this one.
It seems like too much, but they're convenient.
Yeah, there are a couple that I don't understand why they're still open, but this one definitely has to be.
Next, what you don't know about trains and mass transit.
This thing is like the boondoggle of boondoggles.
Now, myth number 2. We need government to invest in infrastructure. That does make sense.
We do need ways of getting places faster. And building infrastructure does create jobs.
Let's get moving.
These days, politicians want to spend more on trains.
The 220-mile-an-hour train that would take us from L.A. to San Fran in 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Cool, except this is only a promise. The train line the politicians approved starts and ends in the boondocks, where economist Adrian Moore lives.
I live in a little mountain town called Tehachapi. It's in the middle of nowhere, 50 miles to the nearest Walmart. And the high-speed rail line in California comes right through my town. This thing is like the boondoggle of boondoggles.
Nobody's living where you're building.
Mass transit advocate Dennis Litton helped get the train project funded.
Lots of people live in California. They're starting high-speed rail in the middle of the state because that's where you can build it fast. We envision high-speed rail connecting the big endpoints, Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego.
That will cost another $100 billion.
You're expecting private investors.
Private investors will be a part of the mix.
Have any come forward?
Not at this time, but there's every reason to believe that they will.
The private money was always a joke because private money will invest in something where they can make a profit. There's no way this project is ever going to pay for itself.
So why does it happen?
Oh, because it's visionary, John. It's very, very visionary.
Trains will revolutionize our global transportation infrastructure.
Trains are romantic. Litton likes California's Amtrak trains.
Amtrak trains, they're packed.
They're packed?
Yes.
The cafe car will be closing.
Actually, here's what it looked like recently when we taped. On average, Amtrak's California trains fill just a third of their seats. But if we don't invest in trains, what's the mass transit alternative? New buses. This is now the fastest growing mass transit in America. Why?
Because it's cheaper.
Buses don't get the big subsidies, but they're still much cheaper than trains.
$3.50 just to get to Delaware? Yeah, so I'll take that.
Amtrak is too expensive. I don't have $200 to spend.
More typically, an Amtrak ticket from New York to D.C. costs about $150, and a bus ticket just $20.
It's cheap. That's basically it.
Also, today's buses are pleasant. They have extras like Wi-Fi. And most important, a bus can go where the people go. Trains run in straight lines, but people move every which way. Only cars and buses can change routes to follow them.
They're making money and doing a better job?
Yes, and growing because they're more flexible.
Which raises the question, why should taxpayers lose more money on trains? People cite New York subways as a reason that government must provide infrastructure. Yes, these lose money, but it's worth it. They transport lots of us.
What would have happened in New York if we'd waited for private investors to build the subway?
Would have never happened. Private investors can't do it because it's a public good that they can't profit from.
Makes sense, and if you ask people who built the subways...
I think it was the government.
Either President Eisenhower or maybe like a mayor.
By union workers.
But actually...
Built in 1878, before the Brooklyn Bridge, before the Statue of Liberty.
The original subways in New York were all private.
It carried tens of millions of passengers.
Then, after 50 years, the private companies tried to raise the fare to a dime.
People didn't like the idea of paying a higher fare, and the mayor took advantage of that and said, well, fine, the government will take it over and we won't raise the fare.
But of course, government did. And now the fare is $2.50. And now that government builds subways, construction takes longer. This subway was supposed to be done in 1938. Then they said 1980. Now they say 2018. It's taken so long that the subway cars built for it, which cost $1 million each, now won't be used because they no longer fit the tracks. And we no longer need the ultraviolet lights they have to kill polio germs. So private companies did it faster 150 years ago, without this modern equipment. Why? Because they had competition and their own money on the line.
I want to recognize up front a number of officials, elected officials.
Politicians have different incentives, like sucking up to other politicians.
Councilmember Jessica Lappin, Councilmember Daniel Gorodnick.
And government workers have time to stand around. Yet despite the delays, despite the billions lost, government wants more trains.
It's rail, 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 and rail.
Up next, do you like these beautiful homes? You should. You probably helped pay for them.
Finally, our top myth. People say, I'm going to Washington to serve my fellow Americans. They call it public service, but that's not what I notice when I look at how they live.
Upon first entering the home, you have this incredibly gracious staircase.
Washington's real estate market is hot.
You can really see the crown molding when you get to the top.
There are lots of expensive homes here.
Beautiful gourmet kitchen, culinary delight.
All glass walls, ceilings, skylit.
This home is a steal at $2.8 million.
$2.8 million is a steal, he says, because
our real estate market has been relatively recession-proof.
And why is that?
Because government is its main industry. We continue to have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country.
Because government keeps growing. So much so that today, for the first time, most of the richest counties in America surround Washington, D.C. The rest of America had a housing recession.
Everybody else, housing prices went way down, not in Washington.
Historian John Steele Gordon says D.C.'s special because the people who control the government and get to tax you live here.
They move there and they like it there.
Lobbyists, politicians, government contractors.
There's a reason they go there and stay there.
Consider where they work. The architecture's grand. Many office buildings resemble palaces.
It's very much like Versailles before the French Revolution. The whole French nobility, they spent their lives in Versailles, and they didn't know much about what went on outside that world. And that's what happens in Washington. People never leave Washington.
Congressman Alan Grayson lost his seat, but then ran again and won. Grayson says if there is royalty in America...
It's not the congressmen, it's the lobbyists. The lobbyists are the royalty of Washington, D.C., and who made it that way?
You congressmen made it by passing all these laws.
The bill is passed.
If you have a big government, there's more money to fight over.
There is that argument, but I'll tell you that the real royalty is not in Washington, D.C.
It's on Wall Street, he says, and there is lots of money here, but there's a big difference.
In the private sector, if you can find a way to cut costs, you're a hero. If you can find a way to cut costs in the bureaucracy, you're a goat. They measure success by the size of their budget.
Right. And the big budgets give the special interests reason to invest in D.C. And invest they have.
Unions say teachers are underpaid, but their union sure looks rich. This is their headquarters building.
We're told it's worth $100 million.
Its atrium is called an environmental oasis. It's certainly impressive, but they didn't want us to take pictures of it.
We can't just take a picture of the beautiful atrium?
They told me to wait outside while union officials debated whether we could videotape.
You needed something?
We've read about the beautiful lobby, and I'd like to show it to the viewers. It's like they're sucking money from the rest of the country and building palaces for yourselves.
I've been to the NEA's building. I didn't feel that way at all. Have you been to any mall in America in the past 20 years?
Yes.
Okay, isn't it more grand?
No.
Well, I would have to disagree.
Back outside the NEA, I was passed from one official to the next.
Andy, will you find out a little bit more about what's going on?
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to check to see what I can...
He went back inside for a while, and finally, the ruling came down.
No? Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a reason?
We're not opening the building up to TV.
I tried another beautiful building, the headquarters of the AFL-CIO.
Wow.
The murals made of marble, glass, and gold.
John Stossel with Fox News. I want to take a picture of the beautiful lobby.
At least they let me wait inside. I had plenty of time to think about the 12,000 active lobbyists now working in Washington. They're smart to be here since Washington controls so much. But this union doesn't want you to see what they've got.
I've been notified by our legal department that we're not, because of the estate of the mural, we're not allowed to do that. So
The estate wouldn't allow it. Oh well.
Thank you.
The bottom line is that Washington, once a sleepy, part-time home for politicians, now resembles Versailles. Power brokers work in buildings that look like palaces. And after work, they go home to castles.
It overlooks the pond. The property's on 5 acres.
Beautiful shower. And his and hers water closets.
It all helps one understand why people spend millions to win jobs here. And then,
Once people come to D.C., they never leave.
That's our show. I'm John Stossel. Thanks for watching.